Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks won't be something fans will be singing at certain Tigers games this season. They have announced the addition of peanut-friendly games. The offer provides special accommodations for families affected by a peanut allergy. They will provide designated, thoroughly cleaned, peanut-friendly areas for these specific fans. All fans who purchase peanut-friendly game tickets will have to sign a waiver. The games will be April 21st, 22nd, and May 26th.
Around 5 a.m. this morning, the phone of the sergeant who handles the media for Troy Police started blowing up. That's about the time everyone else noticed the department had hit a milestone. A milestone that meant, two words: police cat.
People love cats.
Troy Police adopting a cat.
They like the idea of cops and cats.
That's pretty awesome. Surprised, but it's pretty awesome.
Any kind of way that cats could be used in law enforcement, people are just love that.
Troy Police, one of the more entertaining cop shops on social media, tweeted it would adopt a cat if it got 10,000 followers.
We've gotten 6,000 followers in 4 or 5 days supporting this cat.
And this morning, they hit, well, the cat's eye.
We like the idea of having like a community relations animal, whether it be a dog or a cat. We've been exploring that for a couple years, and one day we just thought, let's put it out there and see what other people think, and they loved it.
It's also just another way to get people to see a person beyond just a badge.
That would be a good way to bring in the children, help them to understand, to desensitize them from what the world says about police officers.
Community outreach is all fine and dandy, but given the serious nature of law enforcement, we have to ask a serious question. And that is, what will this crime-fighting cat's rank be?
Maybe we're going to start this cat off at a higher rank, like a supervisory role, because they're going to probably be in charge of at least one human that's what I'm told. You work for the cat, they don't work for you.
Any burning questions you might have about this cat? What its name might be?
His name is probably a Commander Pussycat, but other than that, no, I don't have any questions or anything, but I know that Troy Police will take good care of him and make sure he gets a good home.
I love this story. I do. I love it.
By the way, there will actually be an official contest for the name, so it won't be, well, it could be Commander Pussycat, but we don't know yet. Next step will be finding the right cat at the Michigan Humane Society and then matching it up with the right officer.
I already saw him on Twitter looking for names, so check it out.
That's there.
Local 4 News at 6 is next.
Hey, Devin's up.
The animated series can't be far behind either on
Good
this.
point. Or children's
Police
book.
that's already done.
Right.
I finished that while we were watching it. We're on stories from Rochester Hills, Sterling Heights, and Warren. And here's Rod Maloney.
It is becoming quite the epidemic.
I say they're pretty much troubled kids.
Threats against schools. This one closed today, and now former students are under arrest. U of M football's director of performance now under the microscope by Ann Arbor police.
Belligerent, he was argumentative, he almost appeared incoherent.
What he allegedly did and when he allegedly did it. Next on Local 4.
Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 6 starts now.
A new threat against a local high school. This time the investigation is focusing on former students.
Across the country, large groups of students walked out of class to protest gun violence, but at one local school, there were just 2.
Barefoot and bleeding. Police say that's the condition a U of M staff member was in when they arrested him.
It tops our news at 6. A crash investigation leads to the arrest of a key member of the U of M athletics department.
So far, no charges against Fergus Connolly, whose title at U of M is Director of Performance in the athletic department. Sean Lay spoke with police about the strange circumstances surrounding the arrest.
We're talking about Fergus Conley. He has a PhD, was working as Director of Performance for Michigan football, now under the microscope by Ann Arbor police.
Sport and performance was always my passionate kid.
That's Dr. Fergus Connolly, a performance science expert, handpicked by football coach Jim Harbaugh to come to the U of M from the San Francisco 49ers. Now, Connolly under a legal microscope after what Ann Arbor police call a bizarre episode before noon this past Monday.
On a Monday morning just before noon is not something that we see very often.
Police say calls came flooding in Monday morning after several parked cars were hit by the driver of this dealer-issued Chevy Tahoe. Police want to know if that Tahoe belongs to the U of M. While police were on that scene, another call for a person acting erratically down the street, standing in a snowbank with no shoes on and blood on his feet. Police arrived. They say it was Fergus Connolly, and they say Connolly was not cooperating, even allegedly threatening one of their officers. How uncooperative was he?
Belligerent. He was argumentative. He almost appeared incoherent.
Police got a warrant to take Connolly's blood. They say the behavior continued at the hospital.
They were in the process of withdrawing his blood when he allegedly bit a tech at the hospital while she was in the process of taking the blood out of his body.
Connolly makes $250,000 per year with his role in University of Michigan athletics. Police want to know why he was allegedly behaving the way they say they witnessed this week.
Again, all this before noon this past Monday morning. We will point out again, Fergus Connolly not charged with anything right now. The potential charges would be driving under the influence, leaving scenes of accidents, assault, and potentially resisting arrest. Right now, police tell us they're waiting for blood work to come back to gather more evidence. While they do that, Devin and Kimberly, they are gathering as much video evidence as they can of all these incidents. Back to you.
Sean, any comment from U of M yet on this?
Yeah, they did. They said they don't have anything to offer right now as far as his job status right now. And again, he's not been charged, but they are pointing out tonight that Fergus Connolly has not been working directly with the football program since their bowl game in January. U of M saying tonight that he has been working exclusively for the athletic department, not for football right now. Yeah. That's it.
All right, Sean. We've got breaking news now on the future of Toys R Us stores across the country. The company is planning to sell or close all 800 of its stores, including Babies R Us.
Yeah, we've been hearing this in the Wall Street Journal's CEO, Brandon Davis, says the company plans to file liquidation papers tonight in advance of a bankruptcy hearing tomorrow. That news comes 6 months after the retailer filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The closures are expected to happen over time and will affect as many as 33,000 employees.
Big change, isn't it?
It's huge.
Yeah.
Well, we have a Local 4 News update on the man who turned himself into police for killing his wife. Police say 39-year-old Sean Wheeler went to the Rochester Hills substation and confessed to killing 41-year-old Corey Ellers. Corey was found dead at her home with gunshot wounds. Wheeler claims the two were going through a bad divorce. Wheeler was arraigned on murder charges today and is being held without bond.
4 teenagers from the Whitmore Lake area are behind bars tonight. They are charged with making threats against a school there. Rod Maloney has the reaction to it.
While there may have been school walkouts and protests all across the state, all across the nation, here at Whitmore Lake High School, there was no such thing because the school was closed all day today because of threats. Northfield Township Police today announced it arrested 4 teenagers, one 16-year-old, a juvenile, the other 17 and 18 years old. They'll be charged as adults after allegedly making the chilling threat to shoot up a Whitmore Lake school. The threats showed up on social media Tuesday afternoon. Upon investigation, police say they confiscated a weapon from one of the boys. All of the Whitmore Lake schools closed today. Northfield Township Police not saying precisely which school was targeted, but the boys are apparently former students, likely from the high school, says 14-year-old Cole Rinna.
It's a small school. Everybody knows each other. I know like 1 or 2.
The teens were scheduled for an arraignment today, but it didn't happen. They'll go before a judge tomorrow afternoon. Cole is shocked that it happened in tiny, quiet Northfield.
I just never thought it'd happen this close to home.
And across town, all was quiet, but longtime resident Irene Beanick felt the same way.
I'm really surprised by this is happening because actually when we first moved here, like 30-some years ago, there was the least crime, the least threatened area, Northfield Township. So I don't know where we're getting this influence from.
Oh, really upsetting actually. I mean, it's crazy. Why would you want to do that, you know?
Whitmore Lake Superintendent spoke with us this afternoon, didn't have time to talk on camera. He did put out a Facebook post today where he said that the schools are now reopened. In other words, if there are activities tonight or after school activities, they will be on, and the school buildings will be open for school first thing in the morning. He also said that parents and the students will note that their Northfield Township police officers will make their presence known in all the schools in the days to come. Back to you.
Rod, I'm curious as to how the threat came to light in the first place.
Well, the superintendent got word from one of the students in the school, and he said he was most proud of that. He said because the students saw it on Facebook, on social media, and immediately reported it. He said that's the kind of thing that needs to happen in cases like this.
Say something, see something. All right, Rod. Kim.
Students from across the country walked out of their classrooms today to demand change. The school leading the national movement, Stoneman Douglas High School, the very school that saw 17 people killed 1 month ago. Survivors at the school walked out for 17 minutes this morning to call on lawmakers to take action against gun violence, and they were not alone. Students from nearly 3,100 schools around the country joined in on this national movement. Several Metro Detroit high schools were among those who participated today in the 17-minute walkout. Detroit Cass Tech and Dearborn Fordson are two in particular that organized walkouts to demand action on gun violence. At Cass Tech, more than 2,000 students participated, and at Dearborn Fordson, 2,700 students took part. Their walkout was a peaceful, student-led effort, and they had the full support of the administration. Meanwhile, in Sterling Heights, there was some confusion for students who were planning on walking out today. They thought prom could be canceled or they could be suspended. As Nick Monticelli reports from Stevenson High School, those thoughts prompted a scathing editorial in the student newspaper.
The bottom line is some students did feel like they were being silenced, but now I think everyone is on the same page and working towards the same goal. As Stevenson Titans pulled in before the first bell, there was a sense of frustration.
I wouldn't throw down the punishments. I mean, it's what you believe in.
If I was allowed to, yeah, I would do it.
They're talking about the national walkout this morning. Earlier this week, the Stevenson High School principal sent a staff note saying students who walk out today could face Saturday school or suspension. Principal Faunus also said rumor has it that future activities such as prom may be canceled. I am not correcting that rumor. Many students took that to mean if they walk, prom is canceled, which prompted this editorial in the student newspaper. We do not care about being cold or it being unorganized. We just want to be able to exercise our First Amendment rights without punishment.
I think that the schools should stay out of student protests. At the very most, they can give permission. And other than that, the students should take part in it on their own.
If no one else is going to speak out, then I think the students definitely need to, because we're the ones who need to feel safe wherever we are.
Later this morning brought clarification, though. Principal Faunus saying he'll work with students to plan a different event on the anniversary of the Columbine shooting. As for prom,
I have no intentions of canceling prom. Again, I want to work with the student leadership to do something meaningful and safe.
When 10 a.m. hit, 2 students walked down to Stevenson with Principal Faunus. We're told it was respectful, and you can see it ended in a handshake. Those 2 students will not face any consequences, because at the end of the day, everyone wants the same thing.
We need our protection, and we want to feel safe wherever we are, and school's obviously important.
In Sterling Heights, Nick Monticelli, Local 4.
All right, thanks, Nick. Well, switching gears now, Lester Holt and his team are working on some news for NBC Nightly News tonight, immediately following this broadcast.
And Lester's kind enough to give us a few minutes here from New York City with a preview of what's coming up tonight. Hey, Lester.
Hey, Kimberly and Devin, always good to see you guys. We're going to, of course, be reporting on that coast-to-coast walkout, but also we're going to tell you about a couple instances of guns being fired in schools by adults who had them legally, and we'll drill down on those accidents. Also, the outrage over that mid-air pet tragedy continues. We've got a little more information about how that may have occurred when we see you coming up here shortly on NBC Nightly News. But right now, back to you.
Yeah, one of those stories has a lot of people smacking their foreheads. All right, Lester, we'll see you here coming up at 6:35. See you then.
All right,
6:30. Not 6:35. 6:35. Where am I going? I just think we might need 5 more minutes tonight. That's what I guess I'm saying.
We can use that. Okay, well, coming up here at 6, new research on how much sleep teenagers are missing out on and the consequences it's having.
Here's Andrew in for Ben tonight. Andrew.
Hey there, Devin and Kimberly. Hey, burst of sunshine. Did some good. We're now at 41 degrees currently. That's our high temperature of the day. More beautiful sunshine. Temperatures higher or lower tomorrow and this weekend? I got the answer coming up in your weather forecast.
How do you maneuver in a minefield?
It's a horrible street to live on.
We'll tell you which Metro Detroit community is dealing with this problem.
With a question.
A lot of people across Metro Detroit are fed up with potholes, but the neighbors on Warner Street in Warren say they've been riding on craters for years and want the city to address their concerns. Local 4's Coco McAvoy spoke with residents and officials from Warren. She joins us live this evening with more. So Coco, I guess these folks aren't having it.
That's right, Kimberly. They're actually banding together. They've been passing out flyers to let neighbors know who from the city to call to complain. They say they want this road either paved or properly maintained because they say it's disturbing the peace. The scenery in this Warren neighborhood, coupled with the natural sights and sounds, help maintain an oasis of calm on Warner Street. Well, for the most part, that is.
It's a horrible street to live on.
Warner Street is on the far west side of the city. Residents say the street is treacherous, and it has been for quite some time, so they feel forgotten. The minefield of potholes bursting through the dirt road are a nuisance to Jill Potter.
As you're going through these bumps, what thoughts run through your mind?
Anger that I have to deal with this, and I pay just as much taxes as everybody else around here. Potter says her complaints fall on deaf ears.
We're tired of repeating ourselves over and over and over every year.
But today, Warren DPW laid some gravel.
And that's because all of us start calling.
Brian Miller is with the maintenance crew and says they're exhausting their resources.
It's just do more with less people.
Miller says it's not the right time to grade.
We still have frost in the gravel roads, and there's no way to actually grade them now.
Potter won't stop fighting, though, until the problem is solved and she gets her peaceful neighborhood back. And of course, the DPW specialist says they will grade the road once the ground warms up. They said, of course, this gravel right now is pretty temporary, just to try to put a Band-Aid almost on the issue. But the DPW specialist says they have 12 miles of gravel road and that they've been laying 700 tons of material on those gravel roads within the last 2 weeks. And they're doing the best they can, but they just don't have the crews. So we'll, of course, keep track of this story and make sure that this ground gets graded. Back to you.
Fascinating. Great look there at it, too. Wow. All right, Coco. Now to good health. Is your teenager coming up short when it comes to getting enough sleep?
Well, a recent study finds most are, and many are paying the price. Dr. Frank McGeorge is here with a closer look at the problem. Frank?
Well, Devin and Kimberly, you know, the math is pretty simple. Teenagers need 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night. Most are getting less than 7 hours, which means they're falling short by 1 to 3 hours per night. That persistent deficit is impacting their performance, and it can even be dangerous.
They're not performing well at school or activities, even sometimes at sports. And if they're learning to drive, if they're sleepy, they are not only posing themselves at risk, but they are at risk when they go out and learn to drive if they fall asleep behind the wheels.
Now, experts say electronic devices are partly to blame. In fact, a national survey found today's teens are 17% more likely to be getting less than 7 hours of sleep a night compared to teens in 2009. And it's not just the time spent on devices. Studies find exposure to the light actually delays the body's ability to fall asleep. And
The light from
from the devices themselves, exactly.
So we've had the debate, though, about starting school a little bit later, but I guess the argument is then they would just go to bed later anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're just going to shift it and use the time differently than their own way.
Yeah.
We're getting this advice from a guy who has 2 full-time jobs.
Well,
so,
you know.
physician.
How much sleep are you
I believe
getting?
it's physician heal thyself is the phrase.
I'm going to go take a nap now.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, Doc.
Thanks, Frank.
Bring in Andrew after a pretty day, as long as you didn't get too close to touching it. Oh, what do you got?
The doctor's still a teenager, too. A project.
Yeah, that's right.
Very accomplished in his
Yes,
career.
yes.
Yes, but you're absolutely right. We've got sunshine that's around, but yeah, quite chilly and cold out there as well, and that remains for this evening and overnight tonight. Temperatures tonight make it down into the 20s. We'll see mostly clear skies, though, so it remains dry through these evening hours during dinner time and overnight tonight. But look how cold it gets. Yes, bring the pets back inside. Your potted plants if you've been doing some shopping, getting ready for gardening season, doing some farming. Temperatures down to around 24 to 28 degrees here in the metro zone and in your neighborhood. Still have some beautiful sunshine out there. In fact, enough to boost our temperatures into the 40s. 41 right now, but it feels like it's closer to freezing with a wind of just 12 miles per hour. It feels like 34 degrees. That's what we need to dress for. Happy Pi Day, everybody. Pi 3.14. March 14th, also 314. As you may remember from math class, Or tell you what, got plenty of scientists and engineers out there. Pi is the ratio of the circle's ratio of the circle's circumference to its diameter. And on this Pi Day, plenty of deals to be had at pizza shops and some dessert places near you. Just go to clickondetroit.com for some of those deals. 35 right now up in Macomb Township and around Utica and Romeo. 38 for our friends over in Ann Arbor. On the chilly side with temperatures below 40 degrees right now, when you still have this stiff wind out there, generally coming out of the west, 12, 15, 17 miles per hour. It does knock those wind chills down into the 20s at this hour and throughout much of southeast Michigan. 27 degrees right now is what the current wind chill is in Pontiac, so coats are needed as you head out to dinner this evening. Fortunately, the snow showers that we've seen earlier this week all moving away, including that nor'easter, still pounding portions of Pennsylvania, New York, and New England. It will continue to do so over the next couple of hours. High pressure will be our main dominant feature as we get closer to the weekend. Still a healthy amount of clouds for tomorrow, but sunnier skies coming this weekend and temperatures that will be nicely in the 40s, possibly near 50 degrees in your 7-day forecast. I'll get to that in a second. First, prepare for the cold conditions for tonight. Temperatures down to 25 degrees on average. Sunset still getting later and later at 7:39. Tomorrow we wake up with some sunshine, cloudier skies in the afternoon that may put a cap on our temperatures. Sun rises at 7:45. 37 degrees the high by 4 p.m. March Madness coming to town on both Friday and Sunday. Now Friday, a high close to 40 degrees for residents and tourists alike. St. Patrick's Day on Saturday, closer to 45. How about that? Could I interest you in temperatures near 50 degrees? I think so. High temperatures around 49 on Sunday with more beautiful sunshine. And whether it's chilly or not, it does get chillier, but spring still begins on Tuesday at 12:15 p.m. A chance of rain and snow showers by next Tuesday.
Whether
that could change.
Feels like it or not.
That's right. We'll take it. All right. Bernie's coming up with sports.